Welcome to CUTV News Radio, where our hosts Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters talk to today's top thinkers from all around the world to bring you information, inspiration, and thought-provoking ideas that you can put to use in your personal or professional life right now. Covering a broad range of topics, we dig deep to discover what makes today's top thinkers tick. CUTV News Radio. It's the show where ideas matter. And now, here's today's host, Doug Llewellyn.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back. 2 weeks ago, we had a fascinating discussion with an immigration specialist attorney. That's the best way to put it, I think. And it got a lot of comment, and obviously I learned a lot from our discussions with Michael DiRaimondo, who's based in New York City. He is a senior partner in the immigration law firm of DiRaimondo and Masi. Masi. I got to check with Michael. I may be mispronouncing that. Anyway, they have taken on cases that other attorneys just can't resolve, and they've taken cases to their fullest extent. And that means federal appeals. They've even won cases that have helped change the law. In doing so, they just don't make a difference for one person or a family, but they really do impact the lives and have impacted the lives of tens of thousands of people. To give you a little bit of Michael's background, he was a trial attorney with the New York District Attorney's Office for many years in the early 80s, then a special assistant for the Eastern District of New York from 84 to 86. And that gave him really a lot of keen experiences and insight that have helped him know if a case might be denied and if there's a possibility of an appeal. He also knows how to correctly prepare and present a case and what the prosecutor needs to hear, what kind of documents and testimony the government will be looking for. It's not just Michael's knowledge that draws in clients. It's his genuine concern for people and a desire to protect families and help keep them together. His ethics and his empathy shine through, and he's very proud to have new citizens call him their life-saving angel. That's exactly what he is for them. And as he points out, when you win a case or get someone asylum, you have just made a friend for life. His name, again, is Michael DiRaimondo. He's headquartered in New York City. I have the website for him. We'll give that to you in a little bit. And he's based, by the way, in Manhattan, in New York City. So I want to welcome Michael back. It was amazing chatting with him last week. Michael, welcome. Nice to have you back with us again. And straighten me out again. Is it Masi or Masi?
Good afternoon, Doug. It's Masi.
It is Masi. Okay.
Yes, DiRaimondo and Masi.
Very good. Okay, I got it right. Well, look, we had a wonderful discussion with you 2 weeks ago, all obviously very informative and timely. I mean, let's face it, asylum for immigrants is such a top subject in the news these days. We hear so much about people immigrating to America. You know, they're the groups that are heading up toward the southern border. Let me ask you, for those people who may not know a whole lot about this subject, let's continue to educate them as we did last week. When we say asylum, what does that really mean? How do you define asylum? Is it true we're under treaty to take people in if they can meet certain specific reasons? And if so, what are they? We're going to do that subject today. Asylum. Go ahead.
Yes, it's a fear of persecution of one going back to their home country. And it's based on 5 reasons. It's whether one's afraid to return based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. We are under treaty to accept people that have a fear of returning, and we have a treaty under the United Nations, and it's been in the case law for many, many years, and the case law has developed over the last several decades amazingly. So it's a big part of immigration law today, and a big part of people, running away from countries where their life and lives of their family are in danger, basically.
How many undocumented immigrants do you think there are currently living here in the U.S.? Is there an accurate figure that anyone can really depend on, or not?
I don't believe there's an accurate figure at all. We hear on the news because of this administration. It's in the news almost every day. If you watch the State of the Union address last night, it was a major topic for a very long period of time. The numbers they're using are 10 to 12 million people. Those are the numbers they were using in the 1990s. And I personally believe that it's 30 million plus. I think it's over 10% of our population. And
Wow.
I think if you talk to any of the prosecutors and any of the immigration judges in the country and any of the other immigration attorneys that have been doing this for a long time, you will get the same response that it's over 30 million people. And if you do the math alone, we get, 1 to 2 million people a year that come into the country, either overstay their visas or come through the border areas. If you add that for the last 19 years to 12 million, it's going to bring us way over 30 million. Let's assume we got rid of 10 million. We're still over 30 million. So we have 770,000 active deportation cases right now. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what the amount is that, are not legal in the United States.
Boy, that's a pretty staggering figure to hear. I haven't heard it that high. Is there a specific number of immigrants that are supposedly allowed into the U.S. every year? Do we have a number like that, or isn't there one?
Yeah, there are quotas for many of the groups. I mean, if you're a family member of an immediate relative, which is a spouse, parent, or child under 21 years old of an American citizen, there is no limit on that. But there are quotas for other groups of individuals, and those quotas have really been in effect since 1952 and really haven't been changed. So they're really outdated. And I think we mentioned last week, if you're a brother or sister of an American citizen, which is fourth preference, it's about 11 or 12 years behind. So if you filed 12 years ago, you're just ready for you to come in and get your green card at this point in time. Those numbers have just not changed in the last 67 years.
That's pretty amazing. You talk about some 30 million living here, illegal immigrants living in the U.S. Does that mean they are all potentially people who could be deported if they are, picked up or discovered by police and authorities?
That's true. They could be, and they would be subject to being in deportation, what is now called removal proceedings. The word was changed in 1996 to removal proceedings. But there's no way in the world that we could ever get rid of 30 million people. It's just not going to happen with the resources that the Department of Homeland Security has and the Executive Office for Immigration Review. They're hard pressed at this point to really schedule 770,000 cases. Imagine adding just another million. We're scheduling trials in New York City for 3 to 4 years from now, 2020, 2021, 2022. So to add another 100,000 or a million, it's not even possible. It's not physically possible.
It seems crazy. You mentioned 2 weeks ago about someone whose appointment that you had that had come up to be heard in court. Their date was changed. The appointment had to be canceled, and all of a sudden that knocked them back a couple of years before it'd be heard again.
That case will be, because of the government shutdown. I had 6 trials in the month of January. None of them went forward. I waited 2 to 3 years for every one of those trials. Every single one of those adjournments will probably be 2 to 3 years into the future. So multiply that by the whole United States. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
I mean, those people must be so upset, I would think, and so disappointed and dejected to have it delayed 2 or 3 years again when all of a sudden they think their time to get approved was here. I feel so bad for them.
That depends, Doug. If you have a good case and you want to go forward and you believe you will get either asylum or you'll get a green card, you want to go forward with those cases.
Sure.
But those people that don't have good cases and have weak cases and either were arrested or, the attorneys put forward a very bad case for them, or they may not have a very strong case, they're probably happy with the fact that their case is not going forward and they have a 2 to 3 year adjournment. So it really depends on, who is actually waiting for those cases and what their actual case is. I have to tell you, the atmosphere right now in the United States is fear. Under this administration, they're arresting everybody that they catch, basically, and it's really scary for people that have been here for many, many years. There are different types of relief for these people. We talked about asylum, and that's a major relief for certain groups that come from bad countries. You also have adjustment of status, where somebody may have They may be in lawful status, and if they marry a U.S. citizen or they have a petition pending and they're still in lawful status, they can actually adjust their status to that of a green card in the United States, but they have to be legal. Before 1996, you could be actually in unlawful status and always adjust your status. The law changed in 1996 that you have to stay in lawful status the whole time. You also have what's called cancellation of removal, and this is a big one, Doug. Most people don't know that this is here. But cancellation of removal is where one is in the United States for over 10 years, continuous physical presence for over 10 years, and has a good moral character. So they don't have any arrests or convictions, which would be bad moral character, which would knock them out of this application. And they have to have a qualifying relative. That has to be a spouse, parent, or child, and a child is under 21 years old, that they could show outstanding and unusual hardship to that family member, whether it's a spouse, parent, or child. And there are many people that qualify for that, and there are many people that are here not only for 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. There are people here in unlawful status for decades at this point. And some people have sick children, sick parents. They may have a sick spouse. It could be based on other reasons, on hardships. It could be that the country is terrible. It could be based on educational reasons. So this is a big relief for many people that are here for over 10 years, and there are millions of people here. So that's something that people should really look into and investigate whether or not they may be eligible for cancellation of removal. We do hundreds of those a year in our office.
Yeah, that's very, very important. When I mentioned those people whose cases 2 weeks ago because of the government shutdown got delayed for a couple of years, I was referring to the fact that you were their attorney, and I am under the assumption, because you know this really, really well, if you've got a case for somebody, the chances of them getting approved to stay here, I would think, are pretty good. What's your batting average?
My batting average is really, really high. I don't take bad cases. I really scrutinize the cases when they come in. I'm not saying that there aren't cases where I have to test the waters, like we talked about the Husick case 2 weeks ago, which made new law. But most of the cases we take are really, really good cases. I think that there's over a 90% chance of winning those cases, and those are the cases that we go forward on. I would say that we probably have a 95% or higher batting average with getting cases granted.
Well, that's what I mean. I would think those folks are really dejected having their case, delayed for another 2 years or so. Because, wow. Anyway,
and they are in many respects also because they sort of feel that their life is on hold. And many of them have U.S. citizen children, and it really puts their life on hold. They don't know whether they should buy a house, they should buy a car, they should move. They don't really know what to do, and it sort of puts them in a very precarious situation because of that.
You would know this. Are there certain areas of the country where people who are illegal that are living here and, carrying on their lifestyle, where it's safer for them to be, where they may not be, discovered and arrested? How do you answer that?
Well, there definitely are. For example, New York City is a very safe place because, we have 8 million residents here, plus another, several million coming in and out of the city every day, and it's a sanctuary city. There are sanctuary cities throughout the United States. In those cities, basically, the police do not cooperate with the Department of Homeland Security and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So if you stay within those city limits, basically, you basically are going to be in a safe position. And there are other areas where, the police cooperate fully with Immigration Customs Enforcement. And in those cities, in those states, those people are in a dangerous position. Most states do not give driving licenses. So driving happens to be a very dangerous thing today, because if you get pulled over for a speeding or a traffic violation and you are not in a sanctuary city, it's a very good possibility that you could be turned over to immigration. So driving is a real thing for many of the immigrants that are here without lawful papers.
Well, that opens up a whole discussion about the feeling of some people toward, the sanctuary cities and others who feel it's really bad. But I won't go into that. Really, what we want to find out about and learn about from you is what can people who are here illegally do to remain in the country, and those who have family members who are elsewhere, who live elsewhere in the world, who want to get here, what do they have to do to get them to get into the U.S.? It's a long procedure, and it takes time. But coming to an attorney like you is really the best thing they can do, right? They really need legal help. You can't do it without some kind of help. Am I right on that?
Absolutely, and really they should seek out, a legal consultation to see if there is anything to do. There are many things that can be done, such as cancellation of removal that we mentioned before. We also have what's called an I-601 A Waiver that wasn't available to us before March 4th of 2013. That's something where if you have a petition pending, usually it's marriage to a U.S. citizen, but you came across the border area and you didn't come in with a legal visa, it may be possible to file applications here, an I-130 application from an immediate relative, and then do an I-601 waiver, which erases a 10-year bar, and you may be able to go home for a 2-week period, get interviewed, pick up your green card, and come back lawfully. That process usually takes 2.5 years. That's something we got under the Obama administration, and is absolutely a fabulous thing for many people that would not be adjustable. So if you are here for more than 1 year unlawfully, and you leave the United States, when you go to a U.S. embassy to either get another visa or a green card, you're barred for 10 years from getting a visa or a green card because of your unlawful presence. An I-601 A waiver can be now done in the United States. You show extreme hardship to a qualifying relative, which is a spouse or parent. And if you can show that hardship to that spouse or parent, you can get a waiver that erases that 10-year bar so you can leave the United States, get interviewed in your U.S. embassy in your home country, and come back with your green card. That's a fabulous, fabulous thing that many people don't know about, and it's a very, very successful process.
Well, that is interesting. And they need somebody like you to tell them that, because, you don't hear about this in the media. They don't talk about it, and chances are they wouldn't hear about it from someone else, that a family member or something, unless that family member was really highly informed about what is going on in this business of getting into the U.S. legally. So many immigrants seem to come from Mexico, Central America, and Latin America. And really, where do most of them come from? Is that right? Is that where they are, basically?
I don't agree with that. I mean, I think many of them do come from Latin America, Central America, and South America, but we get people from all over the world. We get people from Africa and Europe and Eastern Europe, and people come from all over the world. Of course, there are some, really good countries that the economies are good and people are safe and they're democratic nations. And, for example, Australia, we don't see many people coming from Australia to the United States today. But there are many countries that have severe political problems and social problems, and people do flee those countries. Clearly, there are some that come for economic reasons. We get a lot from South America and especially Latin America today because the countries are so dangerous. For example, Guatemala and Honduras, the gangs and the drug cartels have made some of these countries very, very dangerous. And the people flee because of that. So that's a major influx of people from those areas. But I think we get it from across the world. And so I don't think it's only from Central America and South America. I disagree with that.
Okay, well, that's good. And maybe we don't hear from them coming from Australia because those in Australia are happy. They don't want to come. They're okay there.
This is true. It's a democratic nation, and they're happy, and they don't really want to come. So, if it's a good nation and things are going well, there's no reason for them to flee.
Exactly. Tell me a little bit about how it works with an attorney like you. If someone is, let's say you talk about people coming from Africa and some of those things, do they get in touch with you before they come here? What's the best procedure for someone who wants to legally get into the U.S. to follow? And they're in their own home country, but they want to come here. what do they do?
That does happen, but generally it's difficult for them to find somebody to represent them in the United States unless a family member is here. But there are family members that will come in and say, I have an uncle in Italy, and he's a tile setter, and is there a possible way for him to come in? And there are ways to come in through employment and to get sponsored. Of course, they need a company or a corporation to sponsor them, or a family member. And then they file a petition. They may have a brother or sister here, and again, it may take 12 years. They may have a company here that wishes to bring them in. So, an employment petition, if it's a skill job, may only take about 2 years to do that. So those petitions are filed. The attorney here will go through the process, and then at the end, actually schedule it in the U.S. embassy for them to have their final interview. And when they come in, they're actually admitted at a port of entry, JFK or Newark or whatever airport or port of entry it may be, with their green card. They're stamped in that day. But they wait in line outside the United States, and that process actually does happen today. But it's difficult because most of the time they're not here in the United States.
When do most clients, your clients, when do they get in touch with you for the most part? What's their situation?
When they want something to be done. So, if you have somebody here and maybe a student graduating and may want to get a working visa, or you have somebody coming here on a visit and they may want to do something that may be a working visa. You may have an outstanding athlete, say an outstanding tennis player, may want to come in and play tournaments in the United States and may come to us and say, listen, I want to come to the United States and I want to travel around the United States and play tournaments. What kind of visa can I do? Or you have somebody that applies for adjustment of status and they're legally here and they marry a citizen. Many people come to us now because of the fact that they are in deportation or removal proceedings, they've been arrested, or they have a family member that's been arrested, and they're coming to us, and it's at the point where it's an emergency situation. I'd say now that we're probably doing about 80% or more of removal and deportation work, where 20 years ago it was maybe 25%. So it's changed. The tides have changed, and I'd say most of the cases now we're defending deportation and removal proceedings and going forward.
You mentioned student. That brings up the subject of, there are a lot of foreign students that attend colleges here in the U.S. Is it difficult for them to how do they arrange to come in here on I guess it's a student visa? I don't know. How does that work?
They do. They either come on a visit, they find a school, or they find a school from abroad and they file for a student visa and they come on an F1. It's called an F1 student visa. As long as they stay fully matriculated in the school and they can actually transfer if they have to, they can stay for the duration of status in student status and get a bachelor's degree, master's degree, or go on for further education. In the past, we've been able to in many cases, keep people here if they wanted to, because they get a year of practical training, which is called OPT. They get 1 year after they graduate, either a undergraduate or a master's degree. So they get 1 year of practical training. And many times if they work for a company or a corporation and they have a good track record, that company would want to sponsor them. The only real working visa that's out there is what's called an H-1B visa. You have to have a 4-year college degree or higher. You have to utilize that degree in the profession that you're going to be working in. And the only problem with that is we only get $65,000 a year for bachelor's degree and another $20,000 a year for master's degree. And in the last 5 years, we've had 130,000 applications for the 65,000. It's become a lottery. So in the past, I was almost always able to keep a student here. Once they graduated and they had a bachelor's or master's degree, we would do OPT and then an H-1B and then on to a green card. But now it's a lottery, and we only can utilize about 85,000 H-1B visas, and we get many, many more than that. So many students come here, get educated, and have to go back to the home country. So we're technically training people to go and be our competitors abroad. Not a good thing, in my opinion.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I know you often help immigrants adjust their status once they've been here after getting married or giving birth to a child in the U.S. What does a case like that involve? I understand it's not as simple as you might think. Is that right?
Well, it's a paper process, and I really think you have to have an expertise in immigration to do these things because the law has been changed so many times in the last 20 or 30 years. But if you're married to a citizen, that U.S. citizen family member, and if you're still in lawful status, will follow what's called an I-130 petition, which is an immediate relative petition. And if that's approved, you then can come in and adjust your status in one of the local offices. For example, in New York, that's probably taking between 9 to 12 months. You can actually file the I-130, the immediate relative petition, and the adjustment of status application, which is an I-485, together in a one-step process. And it's taken 9 to 12 months. Now, there was a period of time, maybe 10 years ago, these were taking 4 to 6 months. It's probably doubled right now. I don't know the reason for that, to be honest with you, but it's probably doubled. So that is a paper process, and then there's an interview at the end of it, which is maybe a 10, 15-minute interview. And, of course, you have to be admissible to the United States. You can't have any serious convictions. You can't be a member of the Nazi Party or the Communist Party. There are approximately maybe 30 to 35 questions that are asked that would show that you're either admissible or inadmissible under the law. And as long as you answer no to all those questions and you're admissible, it's a pretty straightforward process. If you do get a green card through marriage, you only get a 2-year temporary card, a conditional card, and then you have to remove the conditions after 2 years, and you have to file a separate petition to do that. So it's a paper process with an interview attached. You need an attorney to do it. I really don't think people can go through that process properly without an attorney.
I'm telling you, it does sound complex. Talk to me a little bit about being an immigration law attorney. What do you like about this field? You've been in it a long time. You were attracted to it in the beginning. Tell me about your career. Have you really enjoyed this? Is this a great field for a lawyer?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Been doing it almost 40 years. I started in law school and been doing it almost 40 years. Worked for the old immigration service for 7 years before I became a private attorney in private practice. It's a people business. I help people. I become friends of the family. The families become extended families of mine. They come back to me year after year. They bring me family members. I think I've had one family from Albania that has probably brought me 200 family members from the Bronx. I had one guy that was illegally here for many, many years. I put him through the lottery back in the amnesty in 1986. He became the chef for President Reagan. And for 1 year, he used to bring me cooked dinners for the whole weekend. He used to come every Friday and bring me gourmet dinners for the entire weekend. Incredible. He became the chef for President Reagan at the ranch, and just was so thankful. So I love what I do. I love helping people. It's a people business. It's what attracted me to it, and it's also got every type of law involved in it. It's just not one type of law. It's not immigration. It involves criminal law. It involves conflicts of law, matrimonial law. It involves constitutional law. It's amazing to me, and it changes every single year. And I think that's what attracts me to it also. But it's a people business, and that's what's kept me in it 40 years.
Michael, you are an amazing gentleman to interview. You're really, really great. Obviously, extremely knowledgeable about the subject. Our guest has been Michael DiRaimondo. I wanted to point out the website for this law firm because it's very important if you want to get in touch with him or learn more about it. It's DiRaimondo and Masi.com. DiRaimondoandMasi.com. I'm going to spell it for you so you make sure you get it right. DiRaimondo is DiRaimondo, and spell it out, A-N-D, Masi, M-A-S-I.com. That's how you can get in touch with Michael and reach him, and if you need help, he's the guy to go to. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. It's been great chatting with you. You are such a knowledgeable force in this field. And I just thank you for taking the time, okay? We appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for your time also, and have a great afternoon. Thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome. So much so. All right, thanks. And that'll do it for this edition of CUTV News Radio, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Unfortunately, yeah, there we go. I was going to say the orchestra's. The orchestra's gone on a break. They're not around, but they just came back in. So we have a little music to walk us out with. That'll do it for this edition. I'm Doug Llewellyn, and we'll have you back again soon, hopefully. We have some of the most informative and interesting guests on radio anywhere. So check back with us quite often, okay? CUTV News Radio right here on Blog Talk Radio. Take care now. See you soon. Bye, and have a great day.